Hello children, I hope you have gone through the first part of this chapter, that is fundamental unit of life. So what we have seen in the previous class, that the living organisms, they are made up of what? Cells. So a cell is nothing but what? They are called as what? The basic building blocks of living organisms. So you have seen that the cells are called as basic building blocks. So why they are called as basic building blocks? Because they give proper structure to the organisms and they perform the basic functions, basic activities. That is why they are called as what? The functional or structural and functional unit of life. So you have seen there are two kinds of cell. One is unicellular organism and the other one is multicellular organism. So if you have seen the unicellular, it is nothing but what? The single celled organisms. For example, you have seen amoeba, you have seen paramecium, chlamydomonas or some kinds of bacteria. So these all constitute what? Unicellular organisms. Then multicellular organisms, that is we human beings. We constitute of many cells. We are consisted of many cells. The living organisms, the plants, the fungi, they are called as what? Multicellular organisms. That is, they contain so many cells inside their body. So from where these multi-cells are derived? These multi-cells are derived from a single cell. That is, division of single cell, and it produces the cell of its own kind. Means if you take a single cell, then it gets divided, multiplied, and it produces the cell of its own kind. Isn't it? So these cells we get from the multi-celled organisms. We get from a single cell. So these cells, they perform differently. They have different functions. And they are derived from the pre-existing cells. So what are the different functions? For example, if you say we are made up of cells, I am made up of cell. So the cell that is making up my tongue, or the cell that is making up my skin, or the cell that is making up my bone, they all have different functions. Do all they look alike? Do all they perform same functions? No. They all look different. They all are not alike. They are not all similar because they have different functions. They perform different functions, isn't it? So these cells, these multi-cells which are derived from the pre-existing cells, they are differentiated. They perform differentiation functions. So the tongue which perform one function is the same activity or the same function is not performed by the skin, or the same function is not performed by the bones. So even though the living organism is made up of so many cells, still it does not have same functions, it does not have same characters, it does not have same shape, or it does not have same size. So you can clarify this. Like you have clarified that the organisms are made up of cells by temporary mounting of onion peel. Similarly, what you can do is, you have to make a temporary mounting of leaf peel, or you have to make a temporary mounting of a root of tip of onion, or you can take some different sizes of onion peels. So in this way, you can make temporary mounting and observe it under the microscope. So do you find that all the structures are similar? All the shapes and sizes are similar? Yes, those cells are made up of tiny room-like structures. They have little room-like structures which is called as what? Cells. So these cells, they are not same in size. They're not having same shapes. Isn't it? So why they do not have same shape? Why they don't have same size? Because the size and the shapes are dependent upon the activity they perform, the function they perform. Isn't it? So even in your textbook, page number 58, figure 5.3, you find various kinds of cells from human body. You have blood cells, you have nerve cells, then you have sperm, ovum, isn't it? So you have some fat cells, isn't it? So do you find all of these cells similar in shape and size? Not of course. All of them have different shapes and they have different sizes because they perform different activity. So each cell or each living cell has the capacity to perform some basic functions, certain functions that are the characteristics of all living forms, all living organisms. So if you take amoeba changes its shape regularly. So you do not find the same kind of cell inside the amoeba. I mean same shape, okay? Same shape or same size, because amoeba keeps on changing its shape or size. In a similar way, if you take nerve cells, okay? So if you take nerve cells are very peculiar, very particular. They have same shape or size throughout the life. That does not change. It's fixed. So these are the different kinds of shapes of the cells, of the organisms. So they perform some certain basic activity or some certain basic functions. So what are these functions? For example, if you say human body has heart to blood the pump. That is, human heart have what? The heart to pump the blood, isn't it? Similarly, stomach has the activity to digest the food, the function to digest the food, and so on. So, do the heart follow the same activity which is followed by the stomach? Do it perform the same function? No. Do the stomach perform the same function that of heart? No. So they have different functions and they have different shapes and sizes of the cells. So each cell, if you take, as we have seen, there is division of labor of the cells, and each cell has got certain specific component within it, which is called as what? Cell organelle. Each kind of cell organelle perform a specific function. Each kind of cell organelle performs a specific function, and they perform this function inside the cell. If you take a cell, then this cell is divided into different cells. It is multiplied into different cells and is produced from its own kind. So this cell, division of cell, this division of labor, it consists what? Cell organelles. That is a specific component. So this cell organelle performs some specific functions in the human body. And that is why each organelle, these cell organelles, they are called as what? The basic unit of cells. Or they are called as the basic unit called as the cell. Okay. So it is interesting that all cells are found to have same organelles, despite no matter what their function is or no matter what the organisms they are found in. So these cell organelles are called as what? The basic unit. The cell organelles, they constitute together the basic unit called as what? Cell. So these cells perform different functions and they have different shapes, they have different sizes. Isn't it? So it is very interesting that they all are, the human body consists of same kinds of cell organelles. Isn't it? So these cell organelles, they perform what kind of activities? As you have seen, the heart to pump the blood, the stomach to digest the food. They also perform the activities like generating the new cells, or the organelles, what do? Making up the new cells in the body, or clearing up the waste material from the body or from the cell, and so on. So these cell organelles, they are based on three basic features, that is plasma membrane, nucleus and cytoplasm. Based on these features or based on these categories, the cell organelles perform their activity. They interact with the environment. The functions takes place in the cells, or they interact with the environment outside the cell. This is all based on what? That is the cell organelles. If no cells, then no life, no survival of human being, no activities taking place in the human body, isn't it? So the cells and the cell organelles, they are very important part of life. In a similar fashion, the plasma membrane, it is nothing but the outermost covering of the cell. The plasma membrane is nothing but what? The outermost covering of the cell. It differentiates the cell and the cell walls. So this we are going to learn in detail in the next class. So are you clear, students? How the cell organelles help the cells to perform the functions, to perform the basic activities of human beings in the human body. So the system is completely dependent on the cells and the cell organelles. That is the division of labor of cells which is existed from the pre-existing cells, which exist due to the single cell. So these multi-cells, these multicellular organisms, they are consisted of what? They are derived from the single cell. That is due to the division of labor of single cell. So this single cell, as we have seen in amoeba, this single cell, what do? They constitute the whole organism. And in multicellular, they perform the multi-functions, many functions in the body. So these organisms, without any cell organelle, they cannot perform these activities. They cannot perform the basic functions which we perform in our body, which the cells perform in our body. So students, what you have to do is, you have to list down the basic functions or some functions of the human body, and you have to list down the different cells present in the human body. What are the different kinds of cells? Like you have seen blood cells, nerve cells, you have seen sperm, ovum. So apart from this, there are again so many cells inside the body, isn't it? So what are the functions and what are the different shapes and what are the different sizes? You have to write your own answer for this. Okay? You can take help of your textbook. You can go through it. You can go through this video and you have to write down your own answer, that how these different cells perform the different functions. What are the different kinds of cells and the cell organelles and what are their basic functions. Okay students, thank you.